Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Shaihizatul and my fellow group members, which is Abdul, Amalina, Khairina, Sofia, and Muhammad Amirul Syafiq will present you the group project titled Accrual Accounting in the Malaysian Public Sector, which is the progress in federal administration.
So first we go through on the introduction of accrual accounting. Accrual accounting is the method that records revenue and expenses transaction once it occurred, even without receiving its payment yet. The recognition of revenue and expenses should be in the same place period where the accrual accounting method follow the matching principle. The implementation of accrual accounting is important to the organization since this method match principle to provide more accurate revenue and expenses to reflect the result of operation. Besides, accurately reflecting the result of the operation will make it easier for the government to assess the financial performance. The accurate accounting give more advantage to the organization because this accrual accounting will attract interest to investor and an organization that use accrual accounting is also seen as more established than other organizations that use method of accounting on a cash basis.
So, the purpose of adopting accrual accounting in Malaysia is that to bring the practice of public finance in the Malaysian public sector in line with developed countries and well in accordance with the Malaysian government's desire to achieve with the quest for people first, performance now, developed nation status. Therefore, both the federal and state government are presently shifting to accrual accounting under the Malaysia Public Sector Accounting Standard (MPSAS) system, since there is an important need for change in accounting and reporting standards for these entities. So, how is the progression in Malaysia? According to Finance Minister Lim Guo Eng, the government is obligated to a change from cash-based accounting standards to accrual accounting standards by 2021, which means this year. Historically, the implementation of accrual accounting in the federal government was issued on 28 March 2020 based on Treasury Circular number 4. It is expected that the implementation of accrual accounting to be completed by 2015, that is carried out in two phases. However, based on legal requirement of the new Financial Practices Act 1957, it only allows a financial statement based on cash to be sent to parliamentary. Nevertheless, since the current system was only configured for cash accounting, a new accounting system had to be created. So, Malaysian Public Sector Organisation had implemented and used various computerized accounting system which is anchored by 1GFMES. Okay, what is 1GFMES? It is a one government financial and management accounting system. It will be a single database unified system to be combined with some of the other governmental systems. This scheme also requires the ability to conduct cash reporting, taking into account that even if the accounting is accrual, the budgetary control will still be cash-based. The challenges of 1GFMES is that it is one of the most difficult components of the overall project. 1GFMES is an accounting framework based on SAP that involves substantial functionality to fulfill the government's specific needs. Firstly, there will be required dual ledger features which are a significant adaptability for 1GFMES, one for accounting for accrual and one for cash accounting. So, in order to build multi-ledger functionality, the current standard accrual SAP scheme must be applied to a completely customizable module. This personalized module will acquire all accrual transactions from the current standard accrual SAP general ledger and will use cash basis rules to allow updates to a different ledger. In system growth, compatibility with other developed government structure is challenging, which is purchasing and disbursement such as e-service, e-perolehan, HRMIS and PMS, and also fixed asset management system are the main system that need to be incorporated into the current accounting system, which is SPA and MySpata. It is important to do the implementation truly, or the entire system will collapse. The adoption of accrual accounting in other countries. So, according to a survey by the International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Growth, OECD, 25 of the 34 OECD countries have implemented accrual accounts for the control of their public finances. Okay, what is OECD? OECD is an organization of 37 countries, which includes Australia, Canada, Sweden, UK, USA, and others. There are 6 countries that still use cash-based accounting, which are Germany, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Norway. And only 3 countries are contemplating the change, comprising Greece, Portugal, and Slovenia.
Next, we go through the succession in addition of accrual accounting in other countries. We have 2 countries, which are New Zealand and Australia. So we go through first on the New Zealand. New Zealand amended the government's budgeting process into output-based system with the approval of the Public Finance Act of 1989, and also request that the overall budgeting and reporting were carried out using accrual methods. New Zealand issued its first fully accrual-based comprehensive financial statement later in 1992, known to as the Crown Financial Statement. In general, most analyses seem to recognize that for asset management purposes and cost estimates, the accrual measure have provide better details on the financial statement. So this figure shows that New Zealand's gross financial stability dropped from 65% of GDP in 1993 to 23% in 2005, while the OECD overall rose from 66% to 76% over the same time frame. The net debt of New Zealand has decreased from nearly 52% of GDP in 1992 as close as 10% in 2005. At the same time, New Zealand has experienced strong economic growth for the most part, which they get 3.3% annual real GDP growth over the last decades. Next, we go to the Australia. The Financial Management and Accountability Act of 1997 introduced a government management system with a performance assessment pressure that contrasts with those adopted in New Zealand. Subsequently, government agencies were urged to start budgeting, reporting, and accounting on an accrual basis. Australia published comprehensive accrual-based financial statement in the 1999 budgets and fully adopt accrual output budgeting. Starting from that, Australia continued to develop accrual-based accounting and budgeting. Next, this figure was shown that Australia has strong fiscal controls. Australia has consistently generated a budget surplus close to a decade and has thrived in lessening its net debt from a high of 25% of GDP in the mid-1990 to near debt elimination. Its gross financial liabilities decreased from 43% of GDP in 1995 to 15% in 2005. Australia has benefited from real GDP growth of 3.6% per year over the last decades. Once again, the level of accrual accounting reform are accountable for fiscal control and economic growth is uncertain.
Okay, next, let's discuss the challenges of implementation accrual accounting. The first challenge is readiness of employees for the implementation. The changes of accounting basis require additional work and creation of new skills on accounting offices. Current accounting employees may have lack of knowledge for the new accounting basis, as they should have the qualifications and skills to manage the successful adoption of accrual accounting. There also a study that reveals of most accounting personnel were not accustomed to the presentation of private sector financial statement. So in order for these employees to have their readiness ready and accepting the implementation is by having an adequate training to develop new knowledge and skills. Because without having a sufficient knowledge, accounting employees will not be able to read and understand the presentation of the financial statements in the accrual concept. And also, accounting employees will not be able to cope with the new accounting system without proper training. Next, the second challenge is high costs. Most cases in shifting an entirely new system or basis will require a vast amount of additional costs. The cost of developing information system can be very costly as governments need to adopt a number of new processes in order to move from cash-based system to an accrual-based system. It also involves human costs, where the cost of retraining staff and sometimes hiring of new staff can be burdensome to guarantee a successful transition. Not only that, as I mentioned at the previous challenges, costs in training the employees also need to be considered as high cost since it requires a lot of new knowledge, skills, and understanding for the employees to know. And lastly, the third challenge is variances of nature. One of the debates on accrual accounting is that it is not suitable for public sector due to differences in the objective and nature of economic decision making between the public and private sector. Most government services are not assessed on the basis of profits or losses, unlike the private sector. Not only that, the recognition and valuation of an asset and liability is also considered as a significant concern in the implementation of accrual accounting. For example, heritage assets such as monuments and national parks, or infrastructure assets such as roads and military equipment are difficult to classify and quantify, as these properties are the subject of cash flows rather than inflows. It is claimed that assets such as public monuments can simply be treated as liabilities. So these are all the challenges that have been difficult and the reasons why Malaysia has yet to implement the accrual-based accounting system.
So I will continue to present about the current issue. As it stated here, it taken from artikel bernama April 2019. It stated that State Treasury Department aims to implement the accrual accounting method by 2021, which is this year. And it will provide a more accurate picture of state's financial standing. Also, the State Treasurer Rusdin Riman stated that the preparation for migration to the new accounting method has 70% completed with the integrated efforts from the Treasury Department, Ministry of Finance, and State Computer Services Department. Alright, it comes to conclusion then. Cash basis and accrual basis of the accounting method have their own advantages and disadvantages. Cash basis is easy to implement instead of accrual basis accounting, which involve more complex procedures. But accrual concept accounting are more complex because it will provide better transparency and better custodianship of the government financial statement to the public. More explanation, it is because the public sector accounting goal is to ensure that the government is able to control and safeguard public funds. Alright, here is some recommendation that can be made to overcome the challenges by implementing the accrual accounting. Firstly, provide a training program. This first suggestion that can be made is to provide all government workers with a training program. After all, the accountant and the government's employees would have experience in accrual accounting. Next, invite a pioneering country that is already adopting this accounting standard. We could perhaps invite a representative from a pioneering country like New Zealand to direct us through process of moving to accrual accounting. They will help us build better accounting software from the current one we have by having their experience in our country. Alright, last but not least, communication strategy is another strategy that should be emphasized to overcome the challenges. It is to ensure the federal and state employees are well informed about the changes process. The Accountant General Department has conducted a number of communication strategies such as briefings, lectures, conference, forums, and news conference are included in the communication strategy.